Donald Trump has been trying so desperately for us to look at anything but his Jeffrey Epstein scandal, to talk about anything but his cover-up, and to make us think that this doesn't really matter. It's not that important. Why can't we just move on? That is what Donald Trump wants. But Pam Bondi just made it a whole lot more difficult with a court document recently released that is blowing up all of Donald Trump's Epstein claims. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into what this bombshell is that is blowing up Donald Trump's whole narrative, I want to start with some recent reporting from Donald Trump's biographer, Michael Wolff, that details the panic in Donald Trump's own White House that is leading to this problem.
In the White House, they believe that the story in the Wall Street Journal about the birthday greeting that Donald Trump, the salacious birthday greeting that Donald Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein in 2003 on the occasion of his 50th birthday, was a leak from the Maxwell family. And in the White House, they regarded this as, quote, a shot across the bow. So a threat, you know, if that Ghislaine had damaging material on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's lawyer, who, as it happens, is also the number 2 in the United States Justice Department, but principally is Donald Trump's own lawyer, went down, and I expect to try to figure out exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell has, and then they would figure out how they might have to handle that.
This would be a perfectly reasonable explanation for why Donald Trump didn't send our Deputy Attorney General or Todd Blanche, but instead chose someone who essentially acts as his personal attorney to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell. I've seen many people argue that if Donald Trump truly wanted to cover this up, then Todd Blanche, or anyone connected to him, shouldn't have met with Maxwell at all. After all, if the goal was to make the story disappear, meeting with her only raises more questions. So clearly, this wasn't an attempt to silence the conversation. It was because Donald Trump knows Maxwell still has damaging information on him. That's what we're seeing play out right now. But Trump doesn't want anyone to believe that. He wants the public to think it's all a scam, something orchestrated by the Democrats and ultimately not worth paying attention to. That's the narrative he tried to push, one that Pam Bondi immediately shattered.
Statement. Say
bags full of Russiagate documents.
Oh, burn bag. I thought you said appointed a man named Burn Bag. Go ahead. You got to speak up.
Thousands of documents in these bags, supposedly burn bags at the FBI in the secret room.
Well, I want everything to be shown. You know, as long as it's fair and reasonable, I think it will be shown and it should be shown. And I think he feels that way, and I think Pam feels that way. But it's got to be, you know, it's got to be stuff that really doesn't hurt people unfairly, because you have so many people involved. And if they can do that in a fair way, I think it's great. I think it's really great. The whole thing is a scam. It's a scam set up by the Democrats, and they love talking about it. But I would like to see people exposed that might be bad, and we'll see how that all works out. But it's getting to be very old news. You know, if they had anything, they would have done it the week before the election, because they were losing by a lot. If they had anything, they would have done it. They controlled the file. The Democrats controlled it. Comey and all this, you know, sleazebags, every one of them that you read about all the time. And I guess they've got some problems now having to do with yet a different scandal, very big one. But they control that file. So I would think that if they would have had something in the file, they would have released it about a week before the election, maybe 2 weeks, right, Brian?
So Donald Trump is telling us this is old news. We don't have to focus on it. We don't have to think about it. Just move on. It doesn't even matter to you. That's the case that Trump has been trying to make this whole time, that nothing in these documents is in the public interest. You don't even care. It's phony stuff. It's not credible. Well, that's not what Pam Bondi had to say. And it's blowing up Donald Trump's narrative. Bondi blows up Trump claim Epstein files are a hoax. Attorney General Pam Bondi has undercut Donald Trump's claim that Jeffrey Epstein's files are a hoax, admitting there is an abundant public interest in providing Americans with details of the investigation into the trafficking operations. In a late-night court filing by the Department of Justice, Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche urged a Manhattan court to unseal grand jury transcripts from the case, noting that the issue has escalated following the administration's attempts to shut it down. Attention given to the Epstein and Maxwell cases has recently intensified in the wake of the July 6, 2025 memorandum announcing the conclusions of the government's review into the investigation. They wrote in the memorandum, "There is undoubtedly a clearly expressed interest from the public in Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's crimes." It adds the overnight court filing comes as Trump continues to face a political headache over the issue and days after Blanche himself met with Epstein's accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell in a bid to stem the damage. But while Trump repeatedly tried to dismiss the issue as a Democratic hoax, the DOJ memo now acknowledges that there is an abundant public interest in the investigative work conducted by the Department of Justice and FBI into those crimes. It also informs the court that all but one of the victims involved have now been contacted, and that the government would seek to protect their privacy if transcripts are released. The filing was signed by Bondi Blanche and Jay Clayton, who Trump nominated to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. It is a notable shift for Bondi, who came under sustained fire from MAGA World and also clashed with FBI Director Dan Bongino over her handling of the case. So Pam Bondi is completely blowing up Donald Trump's narrative that we should all just look over there, that this doesn't matter, that it's a hoax. She is admitting that this is in the interest of the public, and the public is very interested, which is not what Donald Trump wants us to think. Donald Trump wants us to think that this is all a stupid Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton's email hoax that everyone should just move on from. But even Donald Trump is creating problems for Donald Trump's ability to get us to stop talking about this with the shocking admissions he continues to make when he's pressed about this issue, because of course he has a pudding brain and doesn't really even know what he's saying or how damaging it could be. But Chris Hayes broke down how Donald Trump's most recent admission might be the nail in the coffin.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Now, there are a lot of reasons that this Epstein scandal is not going away for Donald Trump. One of them is this. He and his administration keep behaving every day like they have something to hide. I mean, Trump himself cannot keep his story straight about Jeffrey Epstein. And the more it talks about it, the worse it seems to get. In his attempt to spin another version of how he broke up with the late child sex trafficker, Donald Trump said something truly disturbing about one of Epstein's victims.
That's such old history, very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
So that was Trump yesterday at his Scotland golf resort, which, by the way, he's promoting flying there on the taxpayer dime, saying he stole people that worked for me. Did he really mean that? Today we learned the answer was yes.
People were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
That was audio that we got from Air Force One. We had only the audio. Spa or not spa, don't take my people. So Donald Trump now says that he ejected the world's most notorious trafficker and abuser of minor women and girls from his life because the guy kept stealing his spa workers. You split up the friendship 15 years because he was grooming and recruiting your staff to go abuse them, but you didn't do anything about it? It's a very strange thing to say. It's also a narrative that, like so much with Trump, has just this little kernel of truth buried inside it.
Virginia Roberts was working in the spa at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach when British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell introduced her to multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein.
The training started immediately. I mean, it was everything down to how to give a blowjob, how to be quiet, be subservient, give Jeffrey what he wants.
That woman, who later changed her name to Virginia Giuffre, was 16 when she was indeed recruited from Mar-a-Lago by Maxwell, not Epstein. And after breaking free of Epstein, she became a really outspoken advocate for her fellow victims. She led them in multiple lawsuits. Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year. So was she who Trump was talking about?
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
Yep, he stole her. Definitely the worst thing that Jeffrey Epstein did was hire someone away from Donald Trump. That is Donald Trump referring to the teenage sexual assault victim recruited from his club by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He stole her. And so that's why the two men stopped hanging out. Well, actually, probably not, since we've got actual timestamps on all this. Virginia Giuffre left Mar-a-Lago with Ghislaine Maxwell in the year 2000. Trump was still socializing with Epstein long after that. In fact, it was just 2 years later, after Giuffre was recruited out of the spa, when Trump told New York Magazine in 2002 that Jeff is a, quote, terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. It was 3 years later, in 2003, that Trump would reportedly send a birthday letter scribbled inside the hand-drawn outline of a naked woman, a letter that said, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never age. May every day be another wonderful secret." It's just Trump constantly shifting between multiple accounts that don't add up. I mean, remember this, okay? In Trump's first term, it was widely reported that Epstein and the future president fell out in 2004 after they ended up in a bidding war over an oceanfront Palm Beach mansion. Back then, Trump was also insisting Epstein had never been a member of Mar-a-Lago. But then journalists from the Miami Herald and Wall Street Journal reviewed a club registry showing, Epstein had in fact been a Mar-a-Lago member all the way until October 2007, long after he was already under federal and local investigation for sex crimes. In fact, multiple club members told reporters that Trump severed ties with Epstein after the disgraced financier hit on the teenage daughter of a Mar-a-Lago member, threatening the Trump brand of glitz and glamour. So after that report, Trump changed his story, started telling people, yeah, he was a member and I did throw Epstein out of his club. But he never went into the reasons for their falling out. Until today. It still doesn't add up, any more than the previous stories he's told, all of which he grafted onto the back of this news story yesterday.
It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum.
Someone was taken from him, and the fact that person was an underage girl only makes it all the more disturbing. Especially considering that girl, Virginia Giuffre, went on to be abused by Epstein. Did Trump say that was the problem? No, he was just upset that someone he viewed as a worker was taken. That says a lot. It really gives the whole game away, doesn't it? We'll keep calling that out on this show. And if you want to support that effort, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.